This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. Let me show you how problem reaction solution works yet again, because we're seeing it amplified so much so with almost every single story out there. When you see all the problems that are going on with crime, the solution is right under our fingertips, right? It's right under our noses, or is it right in our retinas? Because now with a lot of the crimes out there that we're seeing, they're starting to roll out the things that they ultimately wanted from the get-go, and the civilians want it. They're asking for it. Instead of asking the government to be held accountable for allowing criminals to run amok, letting criminals out, not having actual strict laws against criminals, not allowing homeowners to protect themselves, not allowing civilians to protect themselves, right? But allowing criminals to protect themselves, because those are the rights that we care about, right? All done by design, and the gaslighting's working so much so that places like LA are about to roll this out. And before I show you this video and talk about the biometric data, I want you to know, if you didn't hear, I am uploading over on my Wake Up Call channel. It's called Wake Up Call. It's linked below. I just uploaded new content over there. I'm going to be uploading between the two channels, and I'm likely going to live stream over on that channel. So take the time now, if you haven't yet, to subscribe. It's linked below in the comment section and in the description box. Make sure you don't miss out. You don't want to miss out on the content. A lot of stuff going on with the Satanists. A lot of signs and symbols I'll be decoding over there. A lot of stuff with the Illuminati card game as well I want to get into. So definitely make sure I want to build out both channels at the same time. So please subscribe now if you haven't. Do me that favor. So back to the story, okay? The story is that somebody was fatally stabbed on LA Transit, right? Well, of course, and I'm sure the guy was let out of a prison. Well, no, we already know the backstory to all the stories that are out there, right? Oh my gosh, it's either an illegal, right? Because the digital ID, all of this surveillance is going to play into the stuff they're doing at the border. They're doing it by design. The conservative states are going to go along with the digital ID because they're going to say we're not going to let people who aren't American citizens into our states, et cetera, right? Well, we have, I mean, it's laughable. I mean, it's laughable because the stories are almost not believable. In some cases, I guess they are. But a person was fatally stabbed, okay? A 66-year-old was fatally stabbed, the woman in LA's metro. Okay, and here's the solution immediately that they're coming out with in LA. The crime's running amok. Instead of arresting people, instead of more police, they don't want that stuff. Of course not. Of course not. And they don't want to hold these criminals accountable, right? But what they want is this. They want biometric data. That's right. So some people out there have been desensitized to it at the airport. A lot of people don't realize they were desensitized to it during the outbreak when you were walking through, if you went to a casino, if you went to a sporting event, you were walking through and seeing screens where your temperature had to be taken, and then you were seeing other people's faces on the screen. You had to go through this, right? Nobody realizes they were being conditioned. They were being conditioned into the surveillance state. But it was for your benefit of your health, right? Wink, wink. So now what they want to do is they want to put biometrics as a way to curb out violence. So biometrics to get on a subway. Right? Soon it'll be biometrics to get into Walmart, because they'll continue the stories about grocery stores, Walmart's getting robbed, people stealing things. Now we need biometrics there. And it just spreads. It's one domino at a time. But it starts with places like this. We just saw it in New York with their subway, right? They put in, if you didn't see the video I did, it's up over here somewhere. They just put in the surveillance in the subway. They put National Guard in, right? That's one. And then two, they put in artificial intelligence to check and scan your body to make sure you don't have a weapon on you. Oh yeah, people are like, I don't know. It sounds like they're like, it sounds like it could violate civil rights or human rights, but maybe it's a good idea because things are getting out of control. And they don't even think for a second that the government's allowing it to get out of control so that they could put this surveillance in place. They literally just don't want to believe the dangers of a surveillance state because they're being convinced on the flip side that it's a positive. Oh, you'll be protected. Oh, crimes will be down. Oh, we'll be able to catch murderers, and you can watch more true crime shows. I mean, it's like, does anyone realize this? That you're going to be able to take a leak without the government knowing about it? And like, oh, who cares if they know if I take a leak or not? That's how ridiculous things are getting. But look at this story. Of course, problem, reaction, solution. Yes, bring in biometrics. And eventually, don't forget, the biometrics is going to be in you. But it's going to start with this.
Well, a kind of technology, Alex and Christine, that you probably are familiar with if you've ever traveled through a major airport. Well, right now, these are all proposals and they need more research, but for sure, they are considering these things with urgency.
And maybe we can just stop for a minute and take a moment of silence.
A moment of silence for Mirna Sosa by the Metro Board of Directors. Hers is the latest death on the Metro system. The suspect is in custody, but tragically he was known to Metro Police.
And they're banned from riding. How on earth do we enforce that?
So right now, that is a challenge. One of the things that we have to be able to maybe explore is technology solutions in order to ensure that we're just not relying on human eyes.
What does that look like? Imagine the security measures at the airport applied to the metro.
It scans everyone that comes onto the platform before they board a train.
So you could identify.
You absolutely can. When it sees something that's the shape of, composition of a knife, a firearm, then it automatically, the video stops and takes a picture of the person.
The latest data show overall crimes against persons on Metro rose 7.8% in February compared to the month prior. Already this month, Sosa's murder, a male passenger was stabbed on a Metro bus, and then later, a Metro bus driver was attacked. Paul Gregorian suggested an upgrade to the CCTV system for Metro rail and buses.
To support artificial intelligence, biometric technology, or other means of identifying those individuals who are known repeat violent offenders.
All right. Well, in addition to that, there are efforts by the board to bring in LAPD, Long Beach PD, LASD to talk about how to address crime near the stations, as well as what happens on the platforms of the Metro trains. And that goes beyond, they say, what is already contracted with those law enforcement agencies. Reporting live at Little Tokyo, Susan Hirosuna, Fox 11 News. All right.
So biometric data is so important to watch in regards to the mark of the beast. We look at the biometric data, people think it just has to do with a retina scan. It's eventually going to be able to scan your genetic code. It's going to be implemented. You're not going to be able to buy or sell without something inside of your body, okay? And we know what that certain something is. It's called the mark of the beast, where you will have to enter into certain places. You will have your genetic code scanned. You will just have a full body scan. It won't just be your face, because eventually they'll be like, well, this is time consuming. It's time consuming to stand there and have your face scanned. That's where this all heads, right? Where you could just walk in and walk out. I covered that Amazon store a couple of years ago. If you don't remember, the Amazon came out with the store, which kind of flopped on its face, but all it really was just a test demonstration run to see how many people would be on board. You walked into the Amazon store. We're not talking about palm scan. We're not talking about self-checkout. You walk into the store with your phone in your pocket. You pick out what you want off the shelves and you walk out of the store. That's it. And that's ultimately what it's going to be when this is embedded in your genetic code. Now, a lot of people out there think that there's already people who have this embedded in their genetic code, and it's just seeing if it takes or not inside their genetic code. And I'm one who actually believes that. But the story is that transit officials in LA have triggered an emergency procurement designation over the stabbing of a 66-year-old woman in the city's metro transit system, and are planning to deploy facial recognition tools to help identify repeat offenders and deter violent crime. Okay? So how about you just don't let repeat offenders out? How about you enhance the prison time for repeat offenders, right? Shouldn't be, do we really need to let repeat offenders? Of course, we know the answer to all these questions, right? We know what the real right thing to do is and how to handle actual repeat offenders who are criminals who don't learn a lesson. It's very easy to figure out how to handle them, right? And for some people, that might be too extreme in today's culture, but that's real. There's an old-fashioned way that you handle that type of stuff, right? There's a reason that 100 years ago they used to handle this stuff, and there were no such thing as repeat offenders. You didn't hear about that 100 years ago. You'd be wanted fugitive, and that'd be it. And that didn't necessarily mean for killing somebody. That could be like robbing a bank. That could be, there's lots of, well, not assault. That didn't exist. Obviously, people handled things with private justice back then, which is why it worked a lot better. Now, of course, we just continue to lose rights and freedoms, and they want every single thing to go through the government. Of course, ultimately, that means, giving up full control of our lives to the government, who we shouldn't trust. And they've obviously proven on both sides, left and right, that we can't trust them, but that's why they keep you in the left-right divide, right? So this is just a perfect example, right? For people that understand problem, reaction, solution. You see all the crimes going on. Don't you sit there and watch the TV and think to yourself, or hear it on the news, wherever you listen and get your fake media news from. Don't you think to yourself, well, why don't they just do this? Well, of course. But most people aren't even thinking. They're just hearing it. And they're automatically going into fear, thinking, well, I shouldn't go to a subway. It's scary. Instead of going, well, why don't you just do this? Right? But before they could have their solution even addressed, the government already has the answer for it. So they're not going to address it with common sense things like repeat offenders not allowing them out, right? They're not going to address it with, potentially allowing citizens to be armed or anything like that. Good citizens who are trying to protect themselves. No. What they want is a surveillance state. So biometric data, all it's really going to do is slow down It's going to slow things down, and it's going to take away your privacy. But if civilians continue to say, well, I didn't do anything wrong, I don't care, why would I care if they take my face? They don't realize that the curtain is going to be pulled eventually. The rug is going to be pulled out. All these people who are like, I don't have anything to hide, okay? The government's pretending to be your friend right now, a lot of you out there, right? Specific groups that start with L and end with plus, okay? Groups like that, the government's ultimately doesn't care about what your preferences are. They're using you, all right, to go along with the things that they want pushed, the laws and rules that they want changed. And then when all this is in place, and we're in a full-on surveillance state, we're letting them listen to our phone conversations because we're so scared of hate speech. And if somebody talks like this, it could lead to violence. And it continues and continues and continues till we have no rights. And people are like, that's just insane. And they're going to wake up one morning and they're going to go, holy crap, we really have no rights anymore. And they go, how did we lose our rights? And they go, because you were acting like a child, because the government has strategically turned adults into children, right? Which people don't realize. I've talked about the psychology of how adults are regressing to childhood-like behaviors, where you see so many 50-year-olds playing with their toys or collecting their toys. And it's not a knock on them for it. It's a psychological thing. They're under psychological exhaustion from all of the confrontation, all the things that the government and the television and the media are doing to them, that they naturally, part of psychology is you regress and you go back to childhood-like tendencies, right? So they're turning adults into children. And so when adults turn into children, they start thinking like a kid. Oh, words hurt your feelings. Yeah, when you're 10, when somebody calls you a name, when a girl calls you ugly, yeah, it might hurt your feelings when you're 10 years old, okay? But when you're a 20-year-old man, 30-year-old man, 40-year-old man, you really are, if it really hurts your feelings, something's wrong with you. And that's ultimately what we're living among, right? So people have their feelings hurt. People don't realize that they care about issues they shouldn't even care about because the repetition is just out there. It's getting beat into them. They're telling you that this should bother you. Their heroes, their idols in Hollywood are telling them how they should feel about this or feel about that. And then ultimately, they go on board with this stuff and they say, okay, I think we need to put in more laws to protect speech. I mean, not protect speech, to remove speech, to protect people from speech, right? And then we just start looking at all the things. If you put all these dominoes around, you just flick one at a time. They're all just coming down on everybody. And then you look at something like this, right? Instead of saying, well, it's a very easy, thing to solve, right? It's a very easy thing to solve. But they don't give you real solutions. They give you, well, we'll bring in artificial police in New York. We'll bring the National Guard in, bring martial law in ultimately, right? And we'll bring in body scanners. That way you can't have a gun on the subway, right? And then 2 years from now, it'll be the same thing that we see in Australia at the moment, right? In other countries right now, where all the stories are about knife attacks. Oh, a guy goes into a mall, attacks 10 people with a knife. Oh, okay, right? You know what they're asking for in these other countries? Removal of knives. You won't even be able to cut your bread at home because you won't be allowed to own a knife. And people are like, that's crazy. No, it's not. It starts with the guns, right? So New York City having that on the subways, they'll say, oh, crime's down. Oh, wait a minute, we're seeing a jump in knife crime. Maybe we could check and make sure no one has a knife on the subway, right? I mean, what's going to be next? Your fist? Not be able to bring your fist on there? You're going to make you put, tape your hands together, put handcuffs on you to get on the subway? Probably. And these people will go along with it. They don't even realize they're just getting worked into this. They're becoming so weak. Humans are becoming so gullible. They actually believe these stories and think that these are the solutions. These are the solutions the government wants. They want a surveillance state. And they're tricking you in so many different ways into wanting it yourself. They've made everyone dependent on technology. Even conservatives look at this stuff with AI and biometric data, and they don't even understand what it's about. They just think it's, oh, okay, whatever. Oh, okay, whatever, right? Because they stay in their left-right bubble. They don't realize that this is the ultimate goal of the New World Order. Trump will be on board. Oh, he doesn't have smart cities. He has freedom cities, right? Oh, let me check again. Oh, look, now instead of just getting on a subway, oh, you have to go through a full body scanner. Oh, you have to go through facial recognition. Oh, now they're going to check to see if you have you have something in your pocket that they don't like. Oh, but it's all for the benefit of us to make sure that we're all safe. Instead of the government doing their job, which would be protecting civilians, they're supposed to be our employees. We look at them as if, they're above us, they're smarter than us, they know what's best for us. They're supposed to be representing us. And on both sides of the aisle, they're deliberately not. And it couldn't be more obvious of the sabotage that they're doing. They're allowing crime to run amok so that they can put crap like this in place. And people out there aren't even blinking going, wait a minute, biometric data, I don't really want my face scanned. They don't even look back to what just happened in 2020 and say, hey, wait a minute. Were they conditioning me into this stuff? Were they conditioning me into Zoom calls? Were they conditioning me into tracking out of my pocket with social? Of course they were. Of course they were. And it worked because now we see them coming out with stuff like biometric data. And that these people out there aren't even blinking over it because they're used to it now. They're used to having their temperature checked when they walk into a building, right? And eventually this is going to go from a subway, just like it went from an airport to a subway, to a mall, to a grocery store, to a UPS store. You won't be able to get on a bus without this type of technology. You won't. You won't be able to get on a bus. You probably won't even be able to get into a car. They'll probably, I mean, yes, you ultimately won't, right? Oh, it's an Uber. Can you get in the Uber? If you have enough carbon emission time, yeah, you can get in the Uber. Well, you're going to have to go through the facial recognition to get in the Uber, right? Right. No one sees where it's headed because they think it's too extreme, right? You give them an inch, they take a mile. Now, right now, they're taking about 100 miles. It's pretty scary, but we're in a pretty dumb time period where people are allowing this stuff because they're believing the media. All of the media is a lie. It's to condition you into what the government ultimately wants, which is total control on both sides of the aisle. Biometric data coming to a subway near you. Absolutely unbelievable. I thank you for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always, and your families. And again, if you're still here, make sure you subscribe to that other channel, the Wake Up Call channel. If you haven't yet, click below. It is linked in the comment section and in the description box. And again, thanks for being here, everybody. God bless you all.